Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute wild west of human interaction, and we're going to unpack the psychological secrets behind navigating conflicts. We've got some calming nature visuals playing for you, mostly to just give us all a little bit of distance from that stress and rising heart rate that usually kicks in when we start arguing. Because let's face it, human conflict is messy. It really is. But the actual mechanics behind how we argue, and honestly, how we can actually resolve those arguments, are absolutely fascinating.
So I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever actually won an argument? Most of us have totally been there, right? We walk away from a heated debate with a hot face, completely tangled words, and then of course, 5 minutes later in the shower, we think of the absolute perfect thing we should have said. But our sources reveal a pretty hard truth here. Bringing pure facts to the table almost never convinces someone to change a deeply held view. In fact, relying solely on logic, it's usually the fastest way to lose.
And really, that illustrates the core problem we're dealing with. To navigate conflict successfully, we have to undergo a total paradigm shift. Most of us, we live in this mindset of being right. We want to crush the opponent, we want to feed our ego. But our sources are telling us that if we want to actually sway someone, we have to shift our focus to being effective. And that means prioritizing empathy and preserving the relationship over just trying to score points.
So let's get into part 1. Why facts actually lose arguments.
What's super interesting here is this concept called wicked learning environments. When we argue about massive, complex societal issues, think healthcare, the economy, education, we are stepping into these inherently messy situations. The source material points out something brilliant. We often start arguing without even agreeing on the metric for success. For example, if someone says a certain policy is the best, are they measuring that by financial growth, or are they measuring it by the daily happiness of citizens? Because we can't agree on the core metric, we plunge right into these wicked learning environments. It's basically a breeding ground for confirmation bias, where we literally only hear the facts we already want to hear.
And on top of that, sometimes the battlefield is just inherently unfair. Enter Brandolini's law. It states that the energy needed to disprove a false claim is 10 times greater than the energy needed to just say it in the first place. In a heated argument, an opponent might hit you with what's basically an information avalanche, just throwing out so many wild or unverified claims that you're completely overwhelmed. You can't possibly fact-check all of that in real time. And honestly, if you try, you just end up looking defensive and completely exhausted. So, hearing that, you might think, okay, I'll just bring undeniable data. Well, here's where human psychology plays a pretty cruel trick on us. It's known as the backfire effect. Here's how it goes. Step 1, you present contradictory facts. Step 2, the other person feels like their core identity is being attacked. And Step 3, instead of changing their mind, their original stance actually gets stronger. No joke. They dig their heels in and double down out of pure defensiveness. Your flawless data literally just made them more stubborn.
Which brings us to Section 2, escaping the ego trap.
Since throwing facts at people backfires, what do? Well, the crucial point is this. When someone is confidently ranting about a topic they clearly barely understand, do not attack them. Instead, you can leverage the illusion of explanatory depth. Just simply, calmly ask them to walk you through exactly how their idea works, step by step. See, people often falsely believe they understand complex systems, right up until the second they are forced to verbalize them. Asking them to explain it out loud exposes this illusion. It forces a sudden sense of humility, and the beauty is, it does it without you ever having to launch a direct attack. It is a brilliant way to diffuse that absolute certainty.
You can also de-escalate tension by creating what psychologists call psychological distance. Look, when emotions are running hot, logic completely shuts down. But by asking a question like, hey, if you weren't personally involved in this, how would you see it? You are giving the other person an off-ramp. You're helping them step back from their immediate emotional reaction so they can view the issue from a rational, third-person perspective. It's like turning a dial. It lowers the temperature of the room almost instantly. Let's move on to Section 3, the absolute power of questions. Moving from statements to strategic questions is a massive power move. Our sources highlight 3 really distinct tactical frameworks for this. First up is the judo move. If someone aggressively says a project timeline is impossible, don't push back. Just agree. Say, you know what, you're right, it's very aggressive. Boom, you've just absorbed their energy and now you can redirect it to actually solving the bottleneck. Second is the Socrates trick. If someone says college is a waste of time, don't lecture them on education. Ask, so you think a degree guarantees nothing? You guide them with questions so they start spotting the holes in their own logic. People trust the conclusions they reach themselves way more than the ones you try to force on them.
And the third tactic is just incredibly powerful.
It's called the how, not why technique. Forcing values, like asking someone why they don't care about a certain issue, feels like a direct moral attack. But reframing the debate to match their existing values changes the whole game. If someone highly values free markets, don't sit there arguing with them about climate change regulations. Instead, ask them how clean energy innovation might open up massive new profit opportunities. See what you did? You aren't fighting their core values. Instead, you're helping them see your point as a natural extension of what they already believe.
Now for Section 4, making them feel heard.
But remember, none of these psychological tricks will land if the other person feels dismissed. You have to build a bridge of agreement first. Step 1. Establish a tiny, undeniable point of agreement. Just get a small yes. Step 2. Use magic words. Instead of aggressively saying, "You never listen," shift that to, "I feel like my ideas aren't being heard." Changing just one word, from you to I, completely bypasses their logical defense systems. Why? Because you're just sharing a feeling. You're not launching an accusation. By maintaining a really disarming, respectful calm and making them feel genuinely understood, you lower their defenses entirely. And that paves the perfect way for Step 3, which is introducing a new perspective.
And this leads us to one of the most profound takeaways from this whole explainer. As beautifully highlighted in our international source material on the art of argument, the true secret here isn't manipulation at all. It's shifting the entire goal of the interaction. The biggest win in an argument is not that the other person loses, but that the truth becomes clear and the relationship remains intact. I love that. When you make truth and connection your ultimate goal rather than just domination, you naturally become incredibly persuasive.
Which brings us to our fifth and final section, knowing when to walk away.
Because ultimately, the master strategy is recognizing when a battle simply isn't worth fighting. One of our sources recalled their mother sharing this absolutely brilliant piece of wisdom. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. If the person you're talking to starts resorting to personal attacks or throwing out constant red herrings just to distract you or flat out refusing to listen, you have to recognize the game being played. At that point, trying to win becomes a massive, exhausting waste of your time, your energy, and your peace of mind.
It's exactly like what the supercomputer in that classic 80s movie War Games realized about global conflict. Sometimes, the only winning move is not to play. Listen, you don't have to show up to every single argument you're invited to. Choosing to step away from the board when someone is completely closed off, that's not a surrender. It's actually a highly strategic decision to protect your energy and preserve your relationships for the things that truly matter.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you feel that hot flash of ego rising up, that overwhelming urge to just prove someone wrong and slam all your perfectly researched facts on the table, pause. Ask yourself, will you fight blindly just to be right? Or will you strategize to be effective? Because if you win the argument but lose the relationship, did you really win it all? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you take some of these strategies into your very next conversation.